Hello, and welcome to today's video. Today I thought it'd be fun to tell you guys the story of the time that I got commissioned by a Backrooms entity to paint a mural for them, which sounds pretty crazy, and yeah, it was. So essentially, kind of how this all played out, I have always loved like art and painting and all that kind of stuff, and during a lot of like my years doing rip and ship streams here on YouTube, I would do like art commissions for custom Pokemon cards, and I would advertise it a lot on stream, and occasionally like I would offer to do like other kinds of art commissions, but typically it was always either some kind of painting or occasionally like I would do custom cards with Sharpies, but painting I feel like is ideal, so that was typically what I would advertise. And at some point somebody reached out to me. They were really weird, they were really cryptic, and they were very ominous, and I was just like, they also didn't talk like a person, which made sense because later on I found out that they were actually a Backrooms entity. And so I talked to them a little bit, was trying to like understand what they were asking for in terms of the commission, and essentially they were like, they have a big space and they want a mural covering at least some of it. And I was like, all right, well, like I've never done a mural before, so like, you know, first things first, let's discuss the fact that like I'm not going to be able to promise you exactly what this is going to turn out like. I don't know what to expect for this process, and like it was really difficult to figure out like what rates to quote them, because I was like, I've never done this before, I don't know how much paint I need, I don't know what kind of paint I need, I have a lot of research to do. And essentially what it came down to is, they're just like, you know, I just want this mural, it doesn't have to be the fanciest thing ever, it doesn't have to actually last, just bring your paint and I want this mural. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I want to be commissioned to paint a mural. That's really cool. The downside to it was that, in the end, I didn't necessarily get paid money for it, but it was still worth it. So we'll get into that. But so essentially, like, we had been discussing and kind of figuring it out. And obviously I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, okay, so like, where am I going? And so they eventually like give me this description of a place that is just like, essentially, I had to go to like what looked like the entrance to like a little alleyway behind like some big pipe facility. And they're just like, just follow the alleyway and you'll find my door, and then like, you know, meet me. Or no, it wasn't meet me. They were like, I won't be there. Nobody's gonna be there. You're just gonna have the space to yourself. The wall is pretty easy to find. It's the, like all of the walls in the room, when I went down the alleyway because I was like, why not? It's an adventure. Might not have been the smartest move, but I did bring my pepper spray, so at least I had some kind of protection. But so so they gave me the instructions to go down the alleyway, and I followed them, and you know, enter this little area, and it's like, so there's just this little like tan door like down the alleyway, kind of at the end of it, and I go in there, and there's a long hallway. I walk through the hallway, and there's doors, like a bunch of doors on all the sides, and they're like, just go in the 9th door on the right, like that's the one. And so, you know, I count the doors, I get to number 9, and it's unlocked like they said it'd be, and I walk in, and it's just like a regular, it's not a regular shaped, but it was a regular sized room, like just like a typical like bedroom type size. I don't even know, I guess like 15 feet by 15 feet, except that instead of being a circle, it was like an octagon shape. But one of the like the walls was, it wasn't like a perfect octagon, because one of the walls was very like evidently bigger than the rest. It wasn't even the one like directly like in, like when you open the door, it was the one next to it. So it was a weird shaped room, but it had 8 walls, so it was kind of an octagon, just a little bit of an awkward octagon. And they're like, I just want the biggest wall painted. They'd seen like some of my art before, and they're like, just kind of go for your general style, like, you know, do whatever you want. You can add like Pokemon, you can add other things. The one thing was, they're like, I just want everything to feel just a little bit off. So if you paint a Pokemon, I want you to paint something wrong about it. So like, for example, Glaceon, one of the evolutions, like instead of using like, of having the points on the ears, it would be like making the ears round instead. So like stuff like that. They're like, I want everything to just be slightly different. And I was like, that's weird, but I kind of like it, and it makes my job easier because it's like I don't have to be so much of a perfectionist with the details. And so it was a really freeing art project. And I was just like, well, cool. And they're like, so you can do Pokemon, you can do like random like nature stuff. They were just like, I just want you to basically cover this wall with paint. And so I had like my big bag of paint. I was like, I hope this is enough paint for a whole wall. But obviously I'd never painted a mural before, so I was just like, whatever. And so it took like a few days of coming back. You know, every time I came, it was the same thing. Go to ninth door and then walk in and go to the wall and keep painting. And I never saw anybody like in the alleyway or in the building or in any of the rooms. Like it was always empty. I was the only one ever there. I would play music a lot. The signal wasn't great. It was kind of spotty, so like my music would only play like half the time. It was kind of sad. Sometimes I was just sitting there like in silence, just painting whatever I wanted on this weird wall in the octagon room. And like, don't get me wrong, it was really weird. There were certainly times where I was like, somebody's just gonna like open that door and like I'm gonna freak out. But nobody ever did. I was just completely left alone the whole time. And so I just keep working on it for a few days. I did a whole bunch of different Pokemon. I mentioned the Glaceon, that was one of the ones that I did. I really hated how it looked with the rounded ears, but I was like, I had already like committed to doing that, so I kind of like added some other stuff like around Glaceon's head, so it was like you couldn't even see the ears as much because I just thought it looked really bad. But yeah, so I worked on it for a few days and finally finished it. One thing that was really sad is they were like, they told me that they didn't want me to take any pictures of it, and I'm like, you know, whatever, it is what it is. And so I finally finish it and I'm like, all right, cool, so like it's done, I'm ready to collect payment. And I ask for like a deposit, like 50% up front. In this case, I didn't, just because I didn't even know what I was gonna ask. Like we kind of just worked out a deal where it was like, depending on how long it took and how much paint it took, we would kind of like figure out the total cost. And so I finally finished the mural. Like, I feel like I liked how it turned out overall, but there were definitely some things about it that I didn't love, like especially with it being my first mural. I didn't really have experience with that before. And so like there were certain things that I was just like, I didn't love. And so I kind of asked them, I'm like, do you want me to take more time like fixing some of these details? And they're just like, no, don't even worry about it. Like I was there that last night and what I saw was great. So whatever you finished it with is like perfect. And I'm like, cool, like I'm glad you're happy. And so then we started discussing like the price, and they were like, so here's the thing. They essentially told me, they're like, I'm not unwilling to pay you with money, but I think I can offer you something you want even more. And I was just like, what do you think I want more than money? And they're like, well, I know you've mentioned before your fascination with the backrooms. And I'm just like, yeah. And they're like, well, so like I was like contacting and texting with them as I was like in the room just having finished cleaning up my stuff. They're like, go out and go to the 10th door on the same side of the hall. And I'm like, okay, like what am I gonna find in here? And so I walk in and it's just this yellow officey kind of looking room space thing. And immediately my first thought was like, this looks like the Backrooms. And don't get me wrong, the rest of the building kind of gave Backroom vibes. It was so weird. It was at the end of the alleyway. Like it was kind of interesting. It was fascinating. I wanted to explore the place so bad, but I'm very respectful. So I was like, obviously I'm not going to. And like, you know, they could have had cameras. So I was like, I didn't want them to like see me wandering around. So I wasn't gonna do that. But so I go in and it's just that room that kind of just looks like that classic Backrooms kind of looking room. And like, there was, so obviously, so this was like a square room, but on one of the sides to it, there was like a little gap between like where the walls were supposed to meet in the corner. So instead there was like a little walkway. And so I go in and there's just like this labyrinth of those yellowish type rooms. It looked completely like the Backrooms. And I'm like, did I just step in the Backrooms? Like, am I gonna be able to get out of here? So my first thought was like, okay, go back to the room, check the door and open it. It's still just the hallway and like, I'm not lost. And so I messaged him and I'm just like, what is this? Is this like some kind of like Backrooms replica? And essentially just said, they're like, so are you interested in this alternate form of payment? Like that was all they said in the response. I mean, I think it was worded slightly differently, but like that was essentially the message. And I was just like I wanted the money, but my heart was just like, I have wanted to experience the backrooms for so long. Like, how do I say no to this? And so I was kind of afraid because, like, obviously I'm like, the backrooms was a really good place to get lost, but I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen. And so I was just like, all right, let's go for it. And then I was just like, I essentially just was like, yeah, like what are the rules? Am I allowed to just go wherever? And they're like, within that 10th door, like you can go anywhere that you can access from there. Just don't go in any of the other rooms in the hallway. And I was like, weird, but okay. And so I spent probably 5 hours just wandering through. Fortunately, it was pretty easy to find my way back just because I like strategically was going in a way that it's like I could keep track of where I was going. Like I was following the wall with my left hand. I know there's something with mazes where I just couldn't remember if it was your left hand or your right hand. If you just keep it on a wall, it's like you'll be able to get out. And so I was just like, I'm going with my left hand, like it'll probably be fine. But it was more so it was just like, I'll just go back the same way. And so yeah, I wandered for hours. It was just room after room of just like backrooms looking stuff. There were a few things like randomly, like I'd stumble upon like an area with a desk or a chair or something else like that. But for the most part, it was just empty. And it was so weird. I was just like, this is the weirdest form of payment I've ever been excited to receive. And so yeah, after a few hours, I finally was like, I made my way back out and I was just like, this is the weirdest thing, but thank you. Like, I can't tell you, like, the part of me that felt so fulfilled. Like, of course, like I mentioned earlier, it's like I wasn't allowed to take any pictures while I was in there. They're like, this is like kind of private property thing. Like, I don't want pictures getting out. And obviously, I'm going to be respectful of that. Like, I don't want to disrespect my clients and their wishes and their space. And then, yeah, I was just like, I don't know what I just experienced, but I don't know. Painting the mural was an absolute blast. And it would have been nice to get paid in money, but I had already quoted them. Like, I was kind of like, my general quote was really, really low because I was like, I've never done this before. Like, you know, this can kind of be my test run. And so, yeah, that was ultimately, it's like, I don't know if it was actually an entity, if that was really the backrooms, but whoever it was very mysterious. Never met him in real life. And, it certainly looked like the backrooms, and I can only wonder what all those other doors led to. It was really interesting to note, too, that, like, the pipe building that this alleyway was, like, between, I never saw anybody there. Like, the parking lot was always empty, like, all the lights were always off, but it looked like a well-maintained place. Like, it looked like somebody must be stopping there. Like, it was always clean, like, leaves and stuff were always cleaned up. Like, the windows all looked pretty clean. Like, I don't know, it looked well-maintained, but I never saw another person, like, in this entire area. And so, yeah, that, when it came down to it, I'm like, the only assumption I can make was that was the backrooms, and I just painted a mural for an entity. So, yeah, that is my story of that. I have not been commissioned to paint any other murals, but I have continued to do other art commissions. So if you guys are ever interested in commissioning me to paint a custom Pokemon card for you, feel free to reach out. Typically my prices, depending on the card and like what you're looking for, range between about like $50 and $150 per card. Obviously it's like $150 is going to be a lot fancier. I would say my average is around $80. But yeah, so that is my story. It was quite the adventure, and unfortunately I've never gotten to go back there. It's like private property. I had to like use like a passcode to get into like the gate that like led to the area that the building was and stuff, and I think it's since been changed or something, but it's not like I'm gonna try it. That's just what they told me. But after the next day, when like we had like a couple like final conversations, they never messaged me ever again, and I couldn't help but want to reach out and just be like, so I'm fascinated by what's going on here. Can I ask some questions? But at the time I was way too shy, and now it's like I can't even find the conversation anymore. Like, it was on Discord and it's just gone. Like, I don't get me wrong, I have so many messages on Discord, it's very possible to get lost. Maybe they just changed their profile. I don't know. I can't find it. I tried a couple of times, but I don't know. So that was quite the adventure. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and yeah, let me know if you ever want to commission me for a little art project. Like I said, I do the custom Pokemon cards, but I'm happy to do other things as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.